Warning, the following podcast is brought to you by dads who still don't understand the rules of soccer. Welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast.
Hey, welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast. I'm Ted Lowe, and I'm joined today by Bobby Lewis, BJ Foster, and together we have 44 kids.
Give or take, yeah.
Give or take. A lot of kids and a lot of questions. I think 9, but that's still a lot, right?
Feels like 44 some days, I'm sure.
Give me a heart attack, that number of kids.
Oh, gosh. I know I said our house all the time. There's a lot of people that live here.
Yeah.
There's so many people. Today we're asking a question, but let me ask you to get us going on this thing is, did your parents have a favorite kid?
Yeah, me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm happy to report it was me.
Did you grow up feeling that way?
No.
No? So when did it, hit you?
I mean, look, I'm the only boy. I've got 3 older sisters. You know, this is a lot of girls, and I'm sure they were like,
you're just novel.
I'm very special.
Yeah.
No. My mom was very clear, like, you know, we don't have a favorite. You guys are all different and great and all that stuff. But I mean, you know, my sisters, they don't watch this, so I can be honest and just say, we know it's me.
My parents never said it out loud, but I could see it in their eyes. I was their favorite.
How many siblings do you have?
2. Yeah, 2 younger siblings, a younger brother and a younger sister. Both horrible. No, I'm just kidding. No, they're great. But as great as they are, I was still the favorite. And I don't think anyone could deny that.
I don't know. I used to leverage it for manipulation. I would tell my dad, you're so partial. I don't even know where I knew that word. I was like, you're so partial. I don't think he was partial. But now he definitely has a favorite. And it's not.
And it's not you?
No, it's me.
Okay.
It's me. He for sure is not listening to this podcast. So, it's me. Okay. Now, do you think your kids think that you have a favorite?
Yeah, that's a harder question. I don't know what they think. I've never asked them. Gosh, I hope they don't think I have a favorite, but they probably do. Just like we all thought the same thing, you know?
My kids know I have a favorite. I've told them that our dog is by far my favorite. And in fact, I told them, I'm like, and you guys are tied for second, and it's a distant second.
That's funny.
In fact, I was visiting my mom, and I was getting ready to head home, and she's like, are you sure you don't want to stay an extra day? And I'm like, no, we got to get back and get the dog. And she's like, oh, you love that dog more than you love me. And that's exactly what she sounds like.
She will be listening.
She listens to this podcast every week. Yeah. And you love that dog more than you love me. I said, Mom, let me be very clear. I love that dog more than everyone. And that includes my wife and kids. Like there's a definite order.
Oh, do my kids think we have a favorite? There's a running bit in our family where they all 4 will say in front of each other and to us, I know I'm the favorite. I know you can't say it, but I know.
I think if I was going to peel the curtain back a little bit and, you know, just peek into the mind of my kids, they would all think that our youngest was my favorite. My kids are probably similar to yours. They probably all think they're the favorite, but I think if you were to get them alone and be like, yeah, the youngest is the favorite. And I think that's normal, like the baby in the family. You were just talking about how you were the youngest, BJ, of 4 kids. I think the baby tends to be like the favorite because they kind of get what they want in most houses. But I don't know, maybe in my home, they think the baby, or the youngest is the favorite.
The youngest is typically the cutest with the best personality and all of that.
Yeah. Well, we came across some interesting research from the Family Research Group. Let me read some of these statistics. It says that 74% of mothers and 70% of fathers report that they give preferential treatment to one child over another. So basically a fancy way of saying, yeah, most parents say they have a favorite. But 40% of Americans raised with siblings believe their parents had a favorite child. That's according to the Survey Center on American Life. So whether or not your kids are your favorite, if you have a favorite, if you don't have a favorite, your kids probably think you have a favorite. And that's what we're talking about today.
I mean, I'm kind of wondering about the stats on like that one, because did you said 70% would say we've got a favorite?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, is that them saying I have a favorite, or is that the surveyor asking a question and then coming?
They would admit, yes, I have given preferential treatment to one of my kids. Now, whether they would say, I definitively have a favorite all the time and it never changes season to season. I don't know. But they said that we definitely give preferential treatment in our house.
Gosh, I just have a hard time.
Self-reported.
I know. I
Yeah,
have a hard
lie to
time.
yourself, right?
Anonymous.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was anonymous, but
Like I get if it's like Bobby's parents going, yeah, I've got a favorite and it's not Bobby.
Of course. Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, we get that. Like, I just can't imagine kind of going, yeah, I really prefer this child over another one.
Well, I think that that's because parents who say they had a favorite child or have preferential treatment, really what they're saying is, I like the kids who don't cause as many problems. At least that's what I would say. It's like, man, I really like the kid that's not a challenge, that's not giving me fits all the time, who's not throwing tantrums, who kind of is agreeable, who goes along with whatever we say. That's probably where they're leaning. And so I think it might be natural to give that kid a little more rope or a little more leeway when things are going on in your home. So we got more research for you. This is from the American Psychological Association. It says parents may be more inclined to confer the favorite child award to daughters and children who are agreeable and conscientious, meaning that they were responsible, organized, and this was, done across a large group of people. So daughters tend to get the favorite kid label more often, and kids who are agreeable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Because they're just easier. I guess easier is more likable.
Well, yeah, I mean, easier is relative, I guess, in everybody's home. But yeah, if you've got a kid who just goes with the flow, yeah, of course, you're probably going to be happier to be around that kid than the kid who's constantly giving you fits all the time.
Have to correct and adjust.
Yeah.
I was watching Nate Bargatze last night, one of his stand-up specials, and he was talking about how he has a daughter and he had a friend take care of his daughter who's like the most agreeable, easy. And he's like, my friend has a son, and he's like, he just brings a bobcat over and drops it into my living room, and the thing starts running around, and within 5 seconds, it's underneath the house chewing on wires.
Well, researchers actually thought that mothers would favor daughters and fathers would favor sons, but it actually didn't turn out that way. The study that was done showed that mothers and fathers were more likely to favor daughters and have them be labeled as their favorite kid. So probably because they're little bobcats, these boys running around in your house. And interesting that both moms and dads favor daughters.
It's funny when we started talking about this topic, I was like, is this worthy of an episode? And then you look at that research and you go, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I mean, it turns out it's a really big deal. So for dads, like, why does this matter? Why do we do this? Research shows that siblings who receive less favored treatment tend to have poor mental health and more strained family relationships.
So get this one. I did a lot of heavy research into this because, we all joked around earlier. Yeah, I'm the favorite. But there is a lot to this. You mentioned the mental health aspect. Nearly half, so about 48% of Americans who grew up in families where there was no favorite child, say they had very close relationships with their siblings growing up. So less than a third, 30% of those who believe their parents had a preferred child report having very close relationships with their siblings. So basically, if you have a favorite kid right now, it's less likely they're going to be friends when they get older, which we don't love that. I want my kids to be friends forever. You've mentioned that on the podcast before, Ted, how one of your greatest joys is you have grown adult sons who are buddies and they love hanging out. Right now, for me, if I was looking at my home, if I'm giving preferential treatment to one kid, that means they're less likely to be friends 20 years from now.
Right. Because you're getting what I'm wanting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You're introducing competition within your children, whether you know it or not.
Here's the big question. Like, how do we avoid this? Because we definitely want to avoid this. How heartbreaking would it be for your kids to grow up thinking that they were lacking or weren't enough, or they never got the same amount of attention or care? So how do we avoid this?
Well, I think we need to, number one, we need to know how we show favoritism, because I think it happens in really subtle ways. We do these things and we aren't realizing that we're doing it. It's just kind of, if we're not very intentional about, okay, how am I treating my kids? Am I making sure that I spend the same amount of time with them, even if one kid is difficult and one's not? Am I making sure that I'm asking putting the work in. We need to do all those things. I was a financial advisor for a short period of time because I was a miserable failure at it. But we would go to people's houses and meet them. And I was always worried about how that was going to go. Cause I'm like, what crazy person am I going to encounter? And he's like, oh, I love it. And I'm like, what do you love about it? And he's like, oh, every new person that I meet is like opening up a gift. He's like, I get to open it up and kind of see what's inside the box. And, I get to ask them questions and really get them to open up. I thought, boy, what a great way to kind of look at how you interact with people. And when you have your kids, it's like, boy, even if they're difficult, it's like, I get to unpack this and kind of see what's inside and see how this works. And it's this big joy that the revealing of, okay, what's inside here. And so spending the time with each of our kids and opening them up and kind of seeing what's inside and what God created and who they are and all that stuff is a joy. So we need to be intentional and focus on that.
One of the things that's made it a challenge at our house in terms of the favoritism is just how differently they're wired. I have to communicate differently to them. What's their love language is different. My boys, especially one of them, is just bring me the facts. Don't bring me a lot of emotions. Certainly don't want to lecture, Dad. Like, get it. A plus B equals C. Great. My girls, I realized this way too late into adolescence. They need a lot more empathy. And so when I have bigger conversations, I try to do it when they're by themselves. So there's not this comparison of, man, you're so soft on her and you're so hard on me. So I think it's this balance. And that just speaks again to this time with just the two of them too, which is what they're craving more than we know.
Yeah. So I have 3 kids. My youngest is first grade. She's 6 years old.
The favorite.
Yeah, the favorite. Yeah. Don't listen to her. So she's 6 years old. I have a 10-year-old son and I have a 14-year-old daughter. She's starting high school this year. And so I thought, all right, if I have 3 kids here, which one am I going to get the truest opinion on favoritism? So I went to my 14-year-old and I asked her these questions. And I said, all right, when parents show favoritism, how do you view this? What do you think? And this is what she said. She said, when people have a favorite person, they're typically more polite to that person. So there's a cue, from a teenager. And then she said, I asked her, if dad shows favoritism, how does it make the other kids feel in the home? And she said, unwanted and not good enough. So that was an eye opener for me. This is a 14-year-old who, I try not to show anyone preferential treatment in my home, but I asked her, she must have seen it at some point. I must have shown favoritism or at least in her perspective, shown favoritism. And she said, it makes us feel unwanted if you are giving someone else the favorite label and not me, which is an eye opener, I think.
Yeah. And for them, again, perception is reality. If they are perceiving this, we're going, this is not true. They're being an illogical child, but for them, the perception is reality and their feelings through this, it matters to who they are and who they grew up to be. So it's important. Research also shows that when kids feel like someone else is dad's favorite, they're more likely to have lower self-esteem, try drugs, drink alcohol, act out, feel lonely, and make riskier decisions. It just gets bigger and bigger.
So Bobby, it's a little bit surprising to hear some of this, but what do you think you were doing where she was perceiving favoritism? How can we not be like Bob?
Yeah, great question. Really good question. So many ways.
Sorry, Bobby. He's so
mean. It's a great question actually, because every dad is going to have to consider their behavior and how it's being interpreted by their kids. I didn't ask her specifically what I was doing to make her feel that way, but I would imagine getting into the mind of my daughter, it's the amount of time I'm spending. You only have so many hours in the day, right? So if you're working during the day, you're done, you come home, you got dinner, you got all this stuff going on. You have a finite amount of time. Where are you going to put the time? And if you don't spread it evenly, even if you try your best to spread it evenly, if you don't spread it evenly, the kids are going to say, oh, time equals love, and you're spending more time with that kid, so you must love that kid more. That's what I would imagine. Now, this is tricky because she's a teenager, right? And teenagers, they're recluse. They pull back a little bit.
Yeah,
they don't always pursue you in the same way a 6-year-old would pursue you or a 3-year-old would pursue you, but they really do want time with you. And so if you as a dad, and I'm walking through this right now with teenagers, if you're walking through this and you're like, I don't know how to approach you and spend time because it's a prickly age, right? That 13 to 18 or whatever you want to call it, that's a hard time to kind of pry back this little shell they put on. You've got to figure out how to do it because she may be, or he or she and your family may be internalizing, Dad's not even putting in the effort. I guess he doesn't care about me as much as little brother, little sister. That's a danger for me. So I'm speaking for her a little bit in this moment, but that's my best guess as to what she might be thinking.
Well, and that's because, I mean, teenagers are naturally like that, but you do have some kids, some of them are going to come to you and others are going to just kind of be off on their own. So that is a great word of, hey, when you get a kid who's constantly, gravitating towards you and you have another kid who's not, you need to immediately initiate and go.
You have to pursue all your kids at the same time, because if you don't, you're going to kind of give off the vibe that like, I'm wanting this one more than that one, or I want to spend time with you more than I want to spend time with him or with her. You can't do that. You have to like intentionally pursue your kids so that they both feel loved and feel desirable and valuable. If you don't do that, then they're going to start to think, oh, you just like all the other girls around, like, oh, he must not want to date me. He wants to date her. Can't do that. It's confusing to kids when they see you giving your time and your effort and your interest to one kid over the other. And that's how they form the opinion that I'm not the favorite.
Yeah. And when we say evenly, I think it's important to note on that.
Which is hard. I'm not saying it's easy.
Well,
it's very hard.
I think it's right, but I don't think it's always, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but for quantity to quality, it's different. You're going to be with littles more than you're going to be the one that's rushing out as a teenager. So you're exactly right. Pursuing probably, and sometimes the easier kid gets the less pursuit.
And my biggest fear is I can't control their perception. I can't I would love to walk out every night and be like, all right, they're all in bed. Whew, I gave full effort and I gave 33% to that kid and 33 to you and 33 to you. I spread my interest around evenly. But even if one kid perceives that they were slighted, they were slighted.
Yeah.
In their mind. And I can't control that. And that's hard.
Yeah, it is. And I think a lot of this is going to be communication with kid. If you are a coach of your kid and you're spending every afternoon with one of your kids, you just acknowledge it going, hey, I know I'm with your brother more, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave him at home and we're going on Saturday morning. We're going to do something just the two of us. But just acknowledging that you see it going, oh, okay, Dad sees it. I feel it, but I don't know how to put words around it. So their perception is reality, not our perception is reality. So we got to go from it, that lens. If we see it, if we hear it, we've got to do it, because here's what research shows is this: they are more likely to have lower self-esteem, try drugs, drink alcohol, act out, feel lonely, and make riskier decisions. I mean, again, guys, this episode, I just didn't realize the gravity of that. I feel like that's what a lot of these episodes do, is you go, whoa, this is a big deal that I didn't know was a big deal.
It started off as a lighthearted question when we were kind of kicking around ideas. Right. And as we did research, we're like, oh, dang, this is a huge topic. We really should discuss this, because I don't want my kids making risky decisions. I don't want my kids pursuing drugs, alcohol, all that sort of stuff. And to know that maybe I was some part of the equation that pushed them towards that because they felt unseen, unloved, unwanted by me. Can't have that. I have to prioritize this well.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that we have to remember is sometimes we can be showing favoritism and not knowing it. One of the reasons I think we do that is because of stress. Our reaction to the tougher kid in the moment is bigger. And so we're not having to respond out of stress with the other kid, and they're watching this going on. Another time, I think it's so easy for kids to feel it and see it, and research shows this too, is during a divorce. So because kids are competing for the thing they want, dad's attention, and now it's divided, and dads can tend to lean in on the easier kid, to kind of help through, which, leaning on an easier kid, that just, even saying that out loud is...
Well, leaning on a kid, period.
Yeah, exactly. And especially one that's going through that. Exactly.
Their job supporting you emotionally is very unhealthy.
Absolutely. As we're talking about this, I'm thinking like, who pushes your buttons more, the kid that's like you or the kid that's not like you? And I've found the hard way. It's the kid that's the most like me that pushes the buttons and gets the bigger reactions than the others. And I think even that, watching, oh, wow, you have a stronger response to he or she than you do the others. So it's this just matters.
Well, and on the flip side, I love that you said the non-problematic child, because look, a problem kid still is getting attention. You know, we've talked about this in previous episodes where, you know, when kids are going to, the thing that they want most is attention. And if they can't get good attention, they'll get bad attention. And so they're still getting negative attention. Yeah. And so you could have a kid who's constantly getting negative attention, but still getting attention. Then you have the amiable, which I love that you said that, the amiable kid, the agreeable kid. It's like, you're fine and not giving them anything at all. Yeah. And so this is it can be a minefield to walk through, a very important thing that we need to be thinking about. Number one, you have to balance all that negative stress and all those things with compliments, good attention. And then you also need to be very intentional with your daughters. And, you know, like my son was a forceful personality, particularly when he was young. So it was like, and my daughter is she's kind of just sort of very passive and just kind of goes with the flow and is, you know, it's very like me. And so I was taking her out to a daddy-daughter dance, and I told my wife, I'm like, I don't know what this is going to be like. Like, is she going to talk at all? Because my son dominates. And the second I got her in the car, it was like, I mean, I was able to give her a little bit of space by herself, and all of a sudden she explodes to life.
And I have to still to this day have to make time with one of my sons by himself. He is never going to fight to be heard, ever. But you get him by himself and he will talk. And I love it. Just to circle back, you're talking about just negative attention. Our second daughter came to us when she was 9 years old. And I know there's trauma before, but I think a lot of the trauma played itself out is I get attention when I do the wrong thing. And we just had to unwire that. And it was so hard. So if you've been caught in the rut of that, hey, listen, I get it. And so, but it's worth pursuing to keep catching them. Find anything doing well. Like you woke up today on time. Awesome, man. You're so responsible, but you've got to start looking for those things. Researchers have found that in families that were close knit with good relationships and not a lot of fighting, there was less effect from perceived inequality. So, hey, we're close knit, we're tight. And so if there are times when you're feeling like you got a favorite or you're leaning toward that or you're staying on one, it's like, as we're tight knit, that's going to have way less impact.
I think now's a good time to remind dads. I know you may not have heard every episode. We do these every Monday, and I think they're all helpful conversations. But a couple of conversations that really could piggyback on this one is episode 37, Have I Taken the Time to Get to Know My Kid for Who They Are? Great episode. I would go back and listen to that if you're wondering if you're showing favoritism. And also episode 63, How to Help My Kids Navigate Their Emotions. Both really, really dovetail well with this one. We'll put those links in the show notes because, as dads, we've talked about it over and over again here. Like, we don't want to even be perceived as giving extra attention or extra love or favoritism towards any other kid, but we do that. And one of the ways that we fight back about that is knowing our kids really well, episode 37, and understanding how they react and how they're emotive. And that's episode 63. So check those out. They're really good conversation.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about this. So how do we make it super practical? So dads, we want to give you 6 action steps that you can do right now to help you avoid playing favorites. Number 1 action step, we have to analyze ourselves.
Yes.
You got to analyze, am I doing this? And just pause it. And again, a lot of these things for dads, it's just, we don't know. It's not bad hearts, it's bad habits sometimes. And so just analyzing ourselves, and just ask, do I have a favorite kid? Do I have a favorite kid? Our daughter, who is still at home, I could tell when her brothers would come over, it was pushing some kind of button with her. Like she's usually bubbly and up and the whole thing. And we asked her, we were like, hey, listen, what happens when your brothers are here? She says, I feel like you treat me differently when they come over. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, I just feel like I have a hard time getting in the conversation or whatever. And so we were able to say, we feel so caught up on your life. We know what's going on with you. And when we see them, the time is so much more limited that we tend to focus on them more. This isn't about you, but it was just that good conversation that she had never thought about it in those terms. And I don't even know if we've changed that approach as much now that we know it. I think she understands and we understand it, but we've got to analyze ourselves, and just her sharing back with me was huge.
And it makes sense. I mean, maybe she just never saw it from your perspective. I don't think you were probably doing anything wrong. It's just, hey, they're not here in my house, so I want to get caught up on what they're doing,
Well, I love the fact that you noticed it and asked the question. It made me kind of think, gosh, I'm a little bit afraid to do it, but should I ask my kids how they perceive things?
Yeah. I think another action step, and one that I have to put into practice, is avoid unfair assignments, unfair punishments. And I think that we probably all do this a little bit. At least I know I do. If my daughter can handle a lot, and I give her 5 pounds of stuff to do, my son can't handle as much, and I give him 1 pound of stuff to do, perhaps the more capable daughter is like, hey, this is not fair. You gave me 5 pounds of stuff. You only gave him 1 pound of stuff. This isn't really fair. In my mind as a dad, I'm like, well, you can handle 5. It's equivalent. He can do 1, you can do 5. You got even distribution of chores or even distribution of things, but it doesn't always feel that way. And so we have to be very honest about what we're giving them to do with chores, or what we're asking them to do around the house. Are we punishing them longer? Are we saying, okay, you're in timeout for 5 minutes, you're in timeout for 5 hours? Like, how does that equate? And I think if we analyze how we're punishing or how we're, going through those steps as a dad, that'll help us avoid showing favoritism.
Yep. And I feel like we had a lot of conversations when our kids were growing up, when they would hit this, hey, I don't get to do this, and they get to do this, or I have to do this and they don't get to. I think we had those milestones of, hey, you start mowing the lawn when you're 14, or you can't, my daughter kept going, I want to mow the grass. I'm thinking, no, you don't, but you think you do. Or just even things like phones, like, I wish I had a phone. Well, you're going to get one the same time, and Nancy, I bet I've heard her say it, 100 times to our daughter when she came to us when 9, you need to know that this was the same with the other kids. Or she'll say, hey, we don't get phones until way later, and it's a bummer, and we fully get it. But you're not getting slighted because she's going to school and everyone's got a phone. But it's, again, I think it comes down to communication.
By the way, Teddy can come down and mow my grass.
Oh yeah.
I can't get my kids to mow.
Trust me, it's over. The dream is over.
She stopped.
Once you do it one time, the luster is gone. Yeah,
absolutely.
It wasn't fun.
Another thing that we can do, action step, is we need to examine our wallets. Now this gets tricky, right? Because, Bobby, you were talking about your kids and...
Oh, this is such a hard one for me because, I've got 3 kids who have very different interests. The oldest is into music. The youngest is into music. The middle one plays hockey. And BJ, hockey, you might as well mortgage your house to play. Yeah, it's so expensive. But so are violin lessons. So are piano lessons. Like, all these activities are expensive, but there's nothing tangible to hold in their hand after a piano lesson, right? My son, I'm spending the same amount of money on his hockey as I am on piano lessons or I am on violin lessons, but he can hold the stick, he can hold the skates. They can see that you purchased something. You can't see a lesson. And so there's a perception there like, oh, well, he gets all this cool stuff. They don't know the finances of the home. They have no idea that we're spending almost identical amounts of money on things. But if you are overspending on one kid versus another, that can play into favoritism. Maybe kids think, oh, they get all the stuff, so I'm less loved. Oh, they get all the stuff, he must like them more. That's a dangerous game. You got to watch your wallet, what you're spending, how often you're spending, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And even, again, talk to them about it. Say, right now, his sport is costing more. He gets cool stuff. I mean, you just explained it great. Our kids can handle it They can handle it. Because if we don't bring it up, they don't even know sometimes what they're feeling, but they're like, oh, I don't get toys.
Well, the tricky part too is like your kids have different passions, and those passions aren't financially equivalent. So if you have a kid who really loves drawing, crayons are $2 a box, or my kid really loves to go bowling. Okay, well, it costs $15-20, whatever, to go bowling every day. Like, it's not the same amount of money. And so your passion is being fueled, but the money, you know, sometimes it's not even, and that can be tricky, and kids don't like that. You just got to talk through it, you know.
Another action step is to schedule regular check-ins, you know, dates with kids, asking them questions. You know, again, easiest thing we ever did, you know, and one of the things I feel like that we did mess up, we'd ask high lows every night at dinner. And it was amazing what you'd learn. And with boys, a lot of times too, they process actively. Go play. And they could talk better with you when you're throwing a football. I'm 100% convinced.
I think the main point we're trying to make here is it's worth the effort to try not to show favoritism.
It is.
It's a lot of effort.
And it's not easy.
But it's worth the effort, because we cited that research earlier that if you want your kids to be friends when they're adults, if you want them to get along later in life and don't want them to resent each other, you have to go to work today.
That's good.
Bill Bismar, who has passed away now, but he had a family tragedy and just kind of felt like, I need to spend time with my kids. And so he started taking his kids out one-on-one for breakfast every month. Every month he would kind of, you know, just do a one-on-one breakfast. Those one-on-one times are just massive. And by the way, he eventually kind of thought, I think probably all dads should be doing this. And that's how all Pre-Dad chapters started.
Wow.
Is because he kind of started doing these monthly breakfasts with dads and their kids each month. And so those one-on-one times, you know, I said it earlier, when I got my daughter one-on-one, you know, all of a sudden she just, you know, lights up and starts, you know, and gosh, we came down here to Tampa and had one-on-one time. She's down here with me, just the two of us. And those times are rich. They, you know, you get things you weren't expecting, you know, and you don't even have to force it. You can just sit there. Something's going to happen with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just sit there and ask them questions. Do stuff together. Ask them stuff. It's going to go.
Absolutely. You know, another action step, I think we've got to hear them out. Sometimes we feel like we have heard quite enough, right? That's enough of that. But it's like, especially when the kid's going through something they're really frustrated about, or you feel like they're getting a lot of negative attention, when you're not in the middle of it, take them to the side and go, okay, hey, bud, we keep missing each other here. Talk to me. Like, what do you think's going on? Those are the times I feel like we can learn, instead of, you know, asking them, what were you thinking in the middle of that? So just to hear them out, because again, perception's reality. It impacts how they're feeling in that moment.
Yes.
And this is your pro move of the week, is to identify one area where you might be showing favoritism and then make an adjustment. What is that one area that you go, ooh, I may be showing favoritism in this area, and then make an adjustment?
The dog. So you're taking the dog for too many walks.
I'm not changing.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be working for you.
It is.
Right, they're just waiting this dog out.
It's working for the dog too.
Yeah. It's working for the whole family, BJ. Don't you dare change that. Anyway, you guys, thank you. This has been a really good discussion. Hey, listen, I don't know if you know this, but we not only are on audio, we're on video. You should check us out. We're super handsome. So go ahead.
One of us,
check that. Yeah, one of us. Uh-huh.
It's not you.
Bobby, he's so mean.
He is mean.
He's
Sorry.
hurt people, Bobby. And we're gonna bring in a therapist next episode to help BJ.
Yeah.
To build on what's already been worked on for 30 years.
No, don't stop. It's kind of a fun dynamic for me. It's kind of like some kind of dysfunctional tennis. Anyway, so thank you for that. And thank you. You can check this thing out on YouTube. Again, thanks for listening. We know that you and your kids will be so glad that you did.
Thanks again for listening to the All Pro Dad podcast. Behind every episode is our amazing team. Producer Haley Mawat, audio and video editor Buck Buchanan, and production coordinator Corey Walliff. All Pro Dad is the fatherhood program of the nonprofit Family First. Along with our motherhood program, iMom, we exist to help you love your family well. So remember, if you have more questions than answers, then you're probably in the right place. See you next time.